If the home that you inherited sits unoccupied, meaning no one's there, it's completely vacant for 45 days, and someone breaks in and steals all the copper plumbing, is your insurance going to cover it? Most people are surprised to find out it won't. A few years ago, a family that I was helping just kept the insurance that they had when dad was alive. They thought that everything was covered, they were paying the bills, so everything should be fine. No one had lived there for several months while they were trying to clean out things. They were only there on the weekends. And then one day, someone decided to break into the home, broke a bunch of windows, spray painted a bunch of stuff all over the walls, broke through one of the ceilings, and just acted like a wild person, completely destroying the place and vandalizing it. The family reached out to their insurance company to file a claim just to find out that they weren't covered. The reason they weren't covered was because they never updated their policy coverage to a vacant property. Also, the person who was insured was their dad, not the estate of their dad. So the insurance took that advantage to say, hey, we're not going to cancel you, but we're also not going to pay for the damages here. We'll keep you covered until you sell the home, but we're not going to pay for any claims. They didn't even send a claims adjuster out to examine the damage. So what's up with this? And what's the stuff that no one's talking about here? How do you make sure that you don't fall into that trap? Here's how to avoid those mistakes. First, you want to call up the insurance company and check what's covered. Tell them what's going on and see what adjustments need to be made. You also want to make sure that you check what's considered vacant. Does the home have to sit empty for 30, 60, 70? What is it? How many days can the home sit unoccupied before it's considered vacant? If they tell you something that doesn't align with your clock, do you have a family member that can live there and stay in one part of the home so that the home's not vacant? The second thing that you want to watch out for is the name of the insured. You want to get that updated because, like I said in the previous story, the family that I helped missed out because the insured person was their dad. If the home has a loan on it, the named insured is often the mortgagee or the bank that's giving the mortgage. If you're filing a claim as an estate of someone, the named insured may not match up. And if you're still making payments to the lender and you've called them, let them know what happened. You say, hey, we're planning to sell it within a few months. Can we just make payments to you until we sell and they agree to that? Double check with them and make sure that the insurance is up to date and covered so that there are no surprises. That brings us to the third mistake. Oftentimes, if there is a loan, many families say, well, we're just going to let the lender take care of it and let it be their problem. The challenge is that the lender just gets insurance to make sure that they're covered. They want to make sure that the amount of money that they loaned will come back to them if something happens. So think about that. If the home's worth $1 million in its current condition and the loan's only for $250,000, the lender's only going to insure it for that $250,000 replacement value. If someone damages the home and it lowers it, they're not going to worry about that as much, and they're going to get basic coverage that doesn't cover many things. The lender's portion is basically just covering the structure, not the stuff inside, not the sentimental items, just the structure. These types of insurance policies are usually the most expensive that you can find. So don't just let the lenders settle it. Pick up the phone, make the calls. Because the thing that's actually scary about not making those calls is finding the bill that you're left with when you're not proactive about the issues. The fourth trap is kind of like we touched on to begin this story. It's the wrong policy for a vacant home. Call up your insurance agent and make sure that you get the right policy. Also, if you get a vacant home policy, make sure that certain things are covered, like break-ins, vandalism, and things like that. Keep in mind that standard homeowners policies in California don't cover flood or earthquake. Those are additional coverages, so speak to your insurance agent to see if you actually need those before electing to get them. If you're just covering a home on a vacant property for short term, like you're planning for someone to move into it or you're planning to sell it quickly, share those plans with your insurance carrier so that they can best know how to protect you and give you a policy that actually covers you for what you need. And keep in mind, if you have someone move in there, just sending a young relative that would like to live on their own for a little bit doesn't automatically solve the problem. You want to make sure that their occupancy actually covers that occupancy requirement. You want to make sure that the person living there's name doesn't need to match the name of the insured. And also, don't get caught up in the mistake where if the grandchild of the deceased actually has the same name of the deceased, they're going to catch on, and that could be a huge problem. Keep in mind, insurance has been challenging to get in California on homes that are occupied, on new homes that you're moving into. It's just been challenging. There are different options, and there are people in our resource book that we can connect you with. So if you need that help, feel free to reach out. So when you're talking with the insurance companies, what are the questions that you want to ask them to make sure that the coverage is actually what you need? First, you want to find out what the policy that the home has covering it right now declares as their vacancy or unoccupancy period. Get that in writing and have it highlighted for you so that you're clear on what the requirements are. The second question you want to ask is what perils are excluded after that day count. So, for example, if they say that a vacancy occurs after 60 days of no one living there, find out what is no longer covered after 60 days. Is fire no longer covered? Is vandalism no longer covered? I've had clients that I helped out where there was obvious wind damage to their roof after a storm, and they decided not to cover them because of this exact item. So make sure that you're asking the questions and getting it in writing so that if they deny your claim, you have something to back you up. You also want to ask them who the named insured is, and you want to ask if you can add the estate of as well. You also want to ask, just to clarify, if you need a vacant dwelling policy coverage instead of standard homeowners coverage. Ask them how to best establish the coverage so that you're covered and it's affordable for you. You also want to make sure that if you're getting a California fair plan, and this is mostly in high fire areas, you want to ask if you need a vacancy permit to follow that plan as well. The reason for that vacancy permit basically goes back to the vandalism example. Also, ask if there are currently any separate flood or earthquake coverage. If there is or is not, ask them why. Ask them what your loved one's reason for having those or not having those are. Use your own discernment to see if you still need to hold on to those parts of the policy. And also ask them what documentation that they need from the executor or the trustee if a claim happens, just to make sure that there are no delays or hiccups. The worst thing is if you're trying to get through this and settle someone's estate and get on to the next part of your life, and something happens which makes a process that already feels daunting and long take even longer or have more steps involved. So get clear on those requirements so that you don't have any delays if something were to happen. So what I want to remind you is that loss just cracks us open and leaves us vulnerable. Make the call, fix the paperwork, fix the plan so that you can sleep without that low lying nagging in the back of your head that's keeping you up at night and making it harder to deal with things that you need to deal with during the day. Be sure to book a free clarity call so that you can see exactly how all of these things affect the home, affect renting the home, selling it, or if you just want to hold on to it and let everything settle. These calls were designed for people exactly like you so that you can know how your decisions and your options affect you. It's there as a service and it's completely free. Click the link in the description below to book yours today.